What's up, everybody? It's Josh coming at you from Nerd Ventures Tower, and we are in the age of Moon Knight now. Moon Knight episode 1 just dropped on Disney Plus today. I've seen the episode twice, and I want to do a general breakdown of why I absolutely loved this episode. I want to talk about the good stuff. I also want to discuss some of the things that I wasn't super fond of in the episode, things that I'm hoping for in the future, and I want to address the Marvel fandom, because I think there are some people out there that maybe didn't love episode 1 that will actually quite enjoy where I think this is going, and then it's kind of interesting to talk about how this show might fit into the wider MCU. First of all, let's just get this out of the way. I think this episode is a 9.5 out of 10, almost a perfect episode. There's a ton of stuff in there that's absolutely incredible, and many different elements are working together to create a real masterpiece of an episode 1. I think Loki episode 1 is really strong as well, but Moon Knight episode 1 may well take the cake as the very best first episode that an MCU show has done, and it's up there with some of the best live action MCU on Disney Plus, period. Beautiful stuff going on in direction, beautiful stuff going on in writing, in the performance, but I really thought that the cinematography stood out in this episode. A lot of really interesting choices of camera angles, the way different scenes are lit, the editing, pacing, and sound design all working together to just create this beautiful, intriguing visual masterpiece of an episode. All the different mirror shots showing you things, the foreshadowing with different figures and the symbolism of that, the choice to do certain things with a handheld shot, certain things that were on tracking shots or steady cam. It's all working together to really elevate visually the show. Like, maybe you don't even notice those different elements at play unless you are a film nerd, but you probably notice just how drawn in you were to the show, which is really the cinematography doing its job. I also think the writing of this episode is so damn good. Jeremy Slater is a master at his craft, and the way this series opens with that crazy cult leader Harrow and his little routine, and then going into the morning routine of Stephen Grant and what all of that is like. I mean, man, I just thought it was so clever to open that way, but the way they utilize the sort of weird REM cycle in the middle of the day cuts, it's freaking fantastic stuff, man. It really does a lot to drive you into a new part of the story with some context and some understanding of what's going on, but a lot of confusion. The episode's like a Russian nesting doll of intrigue and Easter eggs that really put a lot of clues out there for things that could be coming, and just a lot of mystery around things that we're unsure about. It's quirky, it's funny, but it's really charming, and the character of Stephen Grant is written in a really interesting way that makes you fall in love with this dude. At least I think most people fell in love with this dude. Some of you guys were like, yo, just put Mark Spector on the screen. I want to see him punching baddies, and I have good news for you, as I think that is where this is going. Another element that just works together to create this perfect storm of glorious television is the performances. I mean, Ethan Hawke is chilling, spooky, charming, strong. It's so nuanced in his performance. It's so damn good. And Oscar Isaac as Stephen Grant, and the little we see of him as Mark Spector in this episode, completely different characters, wonderful stuff. And Stephen Grant as a character has no right to be as good as he is. He's so endearing, and we really do fall in love with him as an audience member. And the scene with him at the steakhouse, man, what a sad scene. Like, that is incredible acting. I've seen a lot of people compare this dude to the Robert Downey Jr. performances that really elevate a lot of the early Marvel stuff, you know, and going into Endgame and Infinity War as well. And I couldn't agree more. Like, this is phenomenal stuff. And you got to understand that, like, he's doing that scene as a dude that's playing another dude, kind of, or whatever. Either way, it's absolutely fascinating. Top marks to all of these actors, and I can't wait to see them continue in these roles. But it's not all perfect, and Moon Knight is very unique in the way it's setting up this narrative, and it worked for me. But I think a lot of folks out there may not have loved the lack of action in this episode, and even those weird REM cycle in the middle of the day cuts, which seems to be showing, you know, when Mark Spector takes over the body that he and Stephen Grant share. A lot of those cuts end up cutting around or ahead of awesome action action that I think many of us wanted to see. Now, I was here for it because it's visually really interesting, but I hope we get to see some of those scenes from the Mark Spector character's perspective, perhaps in episode 2. And even at the very end of the episode, where he fights that weird jackal-like character in the museum bathroom, the camera chooses to track down the hallway and come in even from behind Moon Knight, where he's beating the crap out of this jackal. You don't get a clean look at what is going on there. And so I think if you're a big MCU fan and you love just crazy comic book action, you're probably really longing for a lot of the stuff that they seemingly skipped over or hid from you in episode 1. Now, something else I wasn't crazy about with this first episode, and something that may manifest in a lot of hardcore MCU fans just not being as into Moon Knight, is the complete lack of MCU continuity. Now, the thing is, we had heard about this going into it, and at face value, I said I really didn't care, but it's interesting because there's just no real Easter eggs or references to like things outside of the MCU. Like when we were doing the stream for the watch party, somebody pointed out, wow, he's bringing up like Hitler and all these different historical bad people, but he's not talking about Thanos or Red Skull, and that would have been like a clear case of, injecting the MCU into this. And yeah, there's really nothing MCU here, and that doesn't kill it for me personally, but I know a lot of fans find great enjoyment in seeing how characters and the elements within a new MCU story will fit into the wider canon and influence or inform things that they know about Marvel Studios and this crazy universe that we've been experiencing for over 10 years. And honestly, it's going to be really interesting to see how Marvel fans respond to this show overall, and this first episode is an interesting entry point into this story because it doesn't give a lot of like hardcore Marvel flavor to be curious about or to want to unpack, and instead a lot of the intrigue is to this actual character in the story that's going on here. Like, we want to know what is going on with this cult leader Ethan Hawke character. Why is he hearing voices similar to Mark? Are they both vessels of Egyptian gods in the same way? What is going on with Mark Spector and the Stephen Grant character? Is Stephen Grant actually a real character? Is he a personality or a person from long ago that died and was put into the body of Mark when Khonshu resurrects him? What's the deal with that? And what's the deal with Mark? These adventures that he had with Layla. How badass is this dude and where does he come from? It's all intrigue, but it's built around the characters and plot that is set up in episode 1. I'll also note that from what I've seen online so far, Moon Knight does not appear to be popping as a lot of other Disney Plus shows did. Even Book of Boba Fett episode 1, I think, was popping more on social media, and videos about it were doing much better online than what we're seeing with Moon Knight so far. I really do wonder if this decision to sort of isolate the character in the story from the wider MCU will make it kind of skippable for people that aren't into that cerebral, mystical stuff. For me personally, as a Marvel fan, this is dope flavor. I'm super here for it. I'm going to be covering the show no matter what for the next 5 weeks. We're going to be doing watch parties, getting super hyped up about it. I love the Moon Knight character. I love Marvel Studios, and I absolutely love what I've seen from episode 1, but I don't know if that's a ubiquitous thing. In fact, I'm really curious. Please let me know in the comment section below. Are you super into the Moon Knight show? Are you super intrigued to continue on, or are you not really feeling it? I'm really trying to get a sort of picture of how Marvel fans feel about this show. Oh, and one more thing. I sort of hinted at this earlier, but it appears like we're going to get a ton of Mark Spector from here on out, which I think a lot of fans are going to like. The more traditional Marvel fans, or fans that just want to see dope action, Moon Knight in the suit, Mark Spector with guns, fighting all kinds of crazy baddies, that kind of stuff I think is going to be coming a lot more. And I've heard some people be, sad almost that we don't get a lot more Steven after this episode. And even though I love the Steven character, I think it was well performed and well created, I'm super here for Mark Spector time. I'm down to just see dope mercenary Indiana Jones type stuff going on and getting a lot of the intrigue through that character's perspective. So if you didn't love episode 1, but you're looking forward to Moon Knight, I still think there's plenty of good stuff for you. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like this video if you liked it. It does help us out in the weird YouTube algorithm. And as I always say, I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day. And I'll see you in the next video.